unexpected ways. In 1982, a change of life, he founded Renaissance Technologies. And in some sense, the amazing chapter, really even more amazing chapter started then. He did nothing but use math and a lot of talented people's work to become one of the richest men on earth, and has now been sharing his wealth and his luck with the rest of us who are here. And now we'll all share the luck again in listening to Jim himself. Jim.
This is a high thing. Okay, I guess you can hear me. Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. So I'm going to kind of talk about my life and its various paginations. Some of it about math and some of it about common sense and some of it about good luck. And then I'll take some questions if there are any. So I always liked math when I was a little kid. I didn't think of it as math, just numbers and having fun. But I discovered Zeno's, so this is proof of my thoughtfulness as a child. I discovered Zeno's paradox at about 4 years old, not knowing it was anybody's paradox or not knowing what the word paradox meant. But I learned from my father, to my horror, that a car could run out of gasoline. And I said, well, it shouldn't run out. You could use half of what you have, and then you could use half of that, and then you could use half of that, and you'll never run out. And it didn't occur to me that you'd never get anywhere either. But on the other hand, my family doctor, Dr. Kaplan, he knew I was a bright boy, and he said, well, a bright Jewish boy, you should be a doctor. That's a great field. And I wanted nothing less than to be a doctor. And I said, well, I don't really want to be a doctor. I want to do something like with engineering or math or something. I didn't know much. I was about 8 years old. And he said, well, you can't make any money doing that stuff. And I said, and that didn't seem to be very much of an impediment at 8 years old. I wasn't thinking about making a lot of money. I was just thinking that I did not want to be a doctor, which was a very good choice for me. And it turns out for anyone who would have had the unfortunateness to be my patient, because I would not have done a very good job. But I did like working, and my first job was as a stock boy in Breck's Garden Supply during the Christmas season. They hired kids, a few people, and I got this job. A stock boy works down in the basement in this particular place, looking.
If you want a pair of shoes and they're at the store, they're really at the store. You just don't have it yet. It ain't like that shit don't exist. It's just really at the store. That's how I looked at my whole life. If I want it, if I believe I can have it, then that's my reality.
Where anything went. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason, no order. It wasn't alphabetized or anything like that. You just had to know where things were. So the two people who ran it down there realized I was a failure as a stock boy, but I was there, so they said, okay, you can sweep the floor. And I loved that job. So then I had a big push broom and sawdust, and I could throw the sawdust on the floor and push the broom and walk up and down, keeping the floors clean and thinking, which I enjoyed doing very much. And it came to the end, and Christmas was past, and it was time for me to leave. So this couple sat me down and said goodbye and so on, and asked me what I was going to do. I was, I think, 14. And I said, I'm going to study mathematics. I think I want to go to MIT. Well, they laughed very, very hard. And I'm sure they were thinking, this kid who doesn't even know where the dried sheep manure is going to go to MIT and study mathematics. Well, I did. I never got back to them and said, see, I did that. But I did. And I went to MIT and did study mathematics and realized that one could be a mathematician. But I really had an epiphany when I learned Stokes' theorem. Now, I guess you're all mathematicians, so you probably know Stokes' theorem. You integrate one thing over a boundary, and you take its differential, and that's the same as integrating that over the interior of something. And that, it's a great generalization of the fundamental theorem of calculus, and it works in all dimensions. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing, that theorem. And it really made me appreciate mathematics. It made me want to go into this field of differential geometry, which I had sort of gradually learned existed. And what sealed the deal was a delicatessen called Jack and Marion's in Boston. It's not there anymore, I'm afraid, but it was quite a place, and it was open very late at night. And as an undergraduate, we used to go there and hang out and eat, maybe at 2 in the morning, because young kids can eat at all hours, as some of you perhaps remember. But frequently, Is Singer and Warren Ambrose, I guess everyone's heard of Singer. Ambrose was an older fellow. He must have been 50. He seemed ancient to me, although he was a great teacher. They would show up there and work. They'd go over to some booth and drink coffee and do mathematics. I thought, my God, what a great life. Here are these grown-ups, and they're doing this stuff. They didn't dress in suits. They just had, regular outdoor clothes. And said, what a life this is. 2 in the morning over sandwiches talking about math. So it was clear that was for me. I graduated MIT. I graduated early, but I stayed one more year at graduate school. But when I graduated, which was in 1958, see, that's where the 58 came from. Where was David? He confused those dates. 58. I did something that was actually an example of having no common sense at all, but it turned out that there was some good luck involved. In those days, motor scooters had just been becoming popular, Vespas, and they were Italian. It was either a Vespa or a Lambretta. Those were the two choices you had. And we decided, I and a friend from Columbia, South America, an MIT friend, who was not a mathematician. We decided to ride our motor scooters. We get motor scooters. We didn't have them. We didn't even know how to ride motor scooters, but we felt it couldn't be that difficult. We're going to ride them from Boston to Buenos Aires. Yeah, well, Boston, they both began with B, Boston to Buenos Aires. And we got the motor scooters, and a third guy joined the gang. And we did get halfway. We got to Bogota, and that took 7 weeks. And I at least almost